And in my mind, that wasn't disruptive. That's just how I did it. But when I was explaining this to a brand new friend of mine, he said, have I got a platform for you to share? And he explained what Disrupt was. And when he saw the posting for Disrupt Columbus, he sent it to me about 3 times before the deadline hit, said, you need to apply.
Hello, this is John Bernatovich, president and founder of Willory. I am also one of the organizers for DisruptHR Columbus in our continuation of bringing content to the HR community while we have our DisruptHR event on hold due to the coronavirus. And we are super excited as well to continue on the dialogue and communication and bringing you great content and speakers and thought leaders to talk about a wide variety of topics. And we're also super stoked to have a virtual roundtable event on April 30th, which will cover a wider range of topics. And one of those original 13 speakers who will be on for that is Jenilee Taylor, who I'm joined with today. Jenilee is the founder and president of her own firm, which does professional speaking and training to those that want somebody that's awesome and engaging and dynamic and will bring a lot of great insight to your organization or your event. And she can be found at JenileeTaylor.com. That's Jenilee Taylor, TAYLOR. And welcome, Jenilee.
Hello, thank you so much. I love that we are in a time that we can be flexible enough to refocus, redirect, and still be able to bring wonderful content to the world and then be able to come back and be live eventually.
Yeah, the word I'm using is adaptability, right? We've got to be adaptable to this change. I know originally it was a major league shock and everybody didn't know what was going on. And I know, gosh, I pray every day for the frontline workers and those that have been impacted by COVID. And then obviously the cascading effect on it, on businesses and on our communities and social distancing. So, but you're right, you have to adapt to this. Otherwise you're going to just not be going the right direction, which is kind of forward and onward and upward. So that being said, I know you were sharing before we turned on the live button to this, you got this really cool rad background which lines up with your brand. So I'm wondering, like, tell us a little bit about that, and then also who are you hanging out with these days while you work from home? Who's keeping you company, if at all? So
absolutely. So my background matches my website. My brand has always been glitter. I gave a TED talk about emotional glitter, which is based on the fact that people are attracted to shiny, sparkly objects. So what is it in another person that makes you want to connect, that makes you want to get to know them? So I have deemed that emotional glitter. So my backdrop is also very sparkly and very glittery, which has made this very hard that I'm not able to connect on a day-to-day basis as much with people. I am able to spend lots of time with my husband, my very introverted engineering husband who doesn't know quite what to do with my energy 24 hours a day. We also have 3 cats who are surprisingly okay with a lot of human interaction. I was prepared for them to hide in corners of the house, but I think they like having us around. I was quite impressed with that, but I have found my own little corners of the house to give my poor husband some downtime and not quite so much energy 24 hours a day.
I love it. What's that saying? Opposites attract, right? Opposites attract.
Absolutely, absolutely true. He likes the morning because it takes me a little bit of time to wake up. So he calls that golden time, where he is more awake than I am and he can handle that level of energy.
I got you. Yeah, no, I feel you. Well, I would obviously that it's interesting how we as human beings have had to change and adjust to what this is and what we're going through. And I know it's had an impact on you, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm just curious, as a professional speaker and a trainer, what drove you to do what you do, Jenilee?
I, again, love connecting with people. I spent the majority of my professional life in hotels. I was a hotel manager for about a decade. And my favorite part was being able to train and develop and watch my employees grow and really develop into who they were supposed to be and who they wanted to be. And I'm still connected to a lot of my former employees who have gone on to be general managers, assistant manager, regional managers. And that training aspect and that connection aspect led me to open my own firm.
How cool. And did I give you enough praise and plug as to what exactly it is you do at your firm? And speaking, training on what in particular? You mind maybe sharing?
Customer service, connection, whether that connection is with your employees, if it's manager to employee, employee to customer, whatever that engagement connection facet is. I do a lot of emotional intelligence, training development, and then also public speaking and leadership skills as well.
Cool.
And platform speaking too. A large portion of my business is doing keynote presentations and motivational speaking.
All around the world, all around the country, anywhere they'll take you?
World, anywhere that I am wanted, I will go.
And I know, so obviously the COVID and the changes that have come have probably had an impact on that line of your work, because you can't aggregate large groups of people together. But before we get into that, I'm curious, how did you go from hotel management to being a keynote speaker? What was that journey like? I'm curious.
I have also been involved in an organization called Toastmasters for a very long time. So on the side, I have always developed my public speaking and leadership skills. And hotel management is a very grueling 24-hour-a-day job. And it got to be extremely stressful. And my husband said, why don't you take the parts of that job that you love and do something on your own? And I was in a very fortunate position that I was able to do that.
How cool. There you go. That introverted, quiet husband gave you some very profound advice and support. I can tell you. My wife, I started the firm back in 2010, so just coming out of the Great Recession, and she was incredibly supportive of me, and I thank her every day that I'm able to do what I do. I couldn't do it without her. So
absolutely.
I like your husband already. I hope we can meet sometime soon.
He will absolutely be at the live event when we get to hold it.
Nice, nice. So tell me about the impact of COVID on yourself personally, Jenilee. How have you been adjusting?
It has definitely been a struggle. I am still in the growing stages of my business. I've had a lot of cancellations. I have speaking engagements that were scheduled October, November, December. Everything for the rest of 2020 has canceled as far as in-person engagements, not postponed, but outright canceled. My one-on-one clients, most of my clients are virtual. We sit on Zoom, we sit on Skype, and we will go back and forth like this and be able to do those type of sessions. But a lot of my clients have also been laid off. They've been furloughed. They're scared. They don't have the extra income to hire outside help for what they want to do for self-improvement, for help. So they have also stopped services. And that was really hard. It took me a while. I spiraled for a little bit. I'm used to being the very upbeat, sparkly, glittery person who can find that silver lining to absolutely any cloud. I am the person that individuals will come to for that shot of glitter whenever they need it. And I was not finding that. I was not able to find that. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine set up a Zoom call, and at the end of the call, she said, I really reached out to you so you could make me feel better about this situation. And I don't feel any better after talking to you than I did at the beginning. And we disconnected, and I just sat there for several minutes in shock. So when did it become my responsibility to make everyone else feel better? But that's what I needed to kind of get out of it. That is my responsibility. That's where I found peace. That's where I find happiness. That's where I get my strength from, is being able to help others feel better and to find that joy and to find that happiness. So it was that comment that really turned my outlook around.
Yeah, who would have thought, like, that kind of punch in the gut or bonk on the forehead from your friend that was like what you needed? Because I know when we connected to schedule this time, you were in that funk, frankly, if I don't mind sharing.
Absolutely.
You don't mind me sharing. I think I just shared. So and I was encouraging you because you bring such a great energy. You know, the little that we know of you because of your interest in Disrupt HR Columbus and speaking, your website, your enthusiasm, the things that you bring to it, we were attracted to. And obviously you have a great background to stand in front of 250 people and command a stage. And that's no small feat. Although if you've done a TED Talk, but Disrupt HR is a little bit different, right? Because you can't control the slide deck. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
That's a little intimidating, by the way.
I want to see that. I want to see you roll, you professionally speaker roll through that. That I'm looking forward to.
A little intimidating.
Yeah. But what I will say, and I think I may have mentioned this to you when we talk, like it's okay. It's okay that you feel that way. I mean, this is scary stuff. Like, this is like, top of the list. We, God willing, we live to 80 plus years old, and we look back and our grandkids ask us, hey, grandpa, what was the most tough time you went through? I mean, if this isn't number one, I don't want to know what number one is.
I really don't want to.
Right?
I don't want foresight to know what's coming next if this isn't it.
Yeah, and just the scare of getting sick, and the world and the impact of all that, and then the business impact, and then your family impact, and all the disrupt changes. And then if you watch the media or check out social media, it's like, oh my gosh, like, why am I doing this? What did I do this for? But you wanted to be educated, so you knew what the heck was going on. But I will tell you, your
sources to trust. You don't know which sources, because you're getting opposite sides of every fact at every angle, but you can't turn it off because you want to be informed. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but a big virtual hug, and please keep to what you're doing, because you're onto something. Obviously, if you would build up your business to have a number of keynote speeches or presentations lined up, that by all them canceling was a big impact to you, that means you can build that back up again. It will come. It's just regretfully, it's going to take some patience and innovation and adaptability to do it in a slightly different way. And that's why I'm trying to continue this on for Disrupt HR Columbus, because we had so much momentum and there was such great fever in the community about it. And why? Okay, so we can't do it the way you planned on it. So let's adapt and try something a little bit different to keep the conversation going. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
So now that your friend had that exchange with you, now you can see the silver lining of this. What do you see coming out of this, Jenilee, a year or two from now, that says, even though in the time it was really, really a pain in the I'm glad of it because of what?
I really think that, especially as leaders, whether in our home life or in our work life, it's teaching us to be more resilient. It's teaching us to be more adaptable. And I really think that it's teaching us the importance of soft skills. Most of us in business, we know the importance of policy. We know the importance of procedure. We know the importance of the things that are black and white, the tangibles. But so few of us truly, truly understand the importance of the soft skill, the empathy, the listening, the authenticity. We can talk about them and we say that they're important, but now we really feel how important those soft skills are. And I think if anything comes out of this, that knowledge, that firsthand knowledge of knowing how important those soft skills are, I think that that will be a true benefit.
Yeah, no, in a leadership position, having those and being able to navigate and manage that soft skill, that non-technical aspect of the job for me has been paramount. And then seeing my team, the ones I work with, how are they responding in this unique time when you're faced with adversity? What do you do, and your ability to work through that. So that's profound, and I appreciate that input. So as it relates to your impact or interaction with the HR community, which I know based upon what you do and some of the customers you have, I don't know how often you are interacting with human resources, but are you seeing or hearing anything from colleagues or friends of yours that are working at companies as to how HR has been impacted by this?
The biggest connection that I still have right now, because again, I'm not going into companies at this point. When I'm in my day-to-day business, I will go into the companies and I'll sit down with either the owner or the HR representative. And we do talk about what their pain points are. And that's how I develop my training. I'll develop my training based on what they are experiencing, and I develop my sessions right there for them. It's specific for that company. But now I'm not able to really go in and get that pulse point. So now I'm talking a lot to my hotel friends, and what they're experiencing is how they're having to lay off their entire staff. And it does, oddly enough, with the transition piece here, it does go hand in hand with what my talk will be for Disrupt HR Columbus. And it's one thing to be able to point at a specific policy or procedure when you are terminating someone and say, you know what, Tim, you have been late 10 times in the past 3 months. We talked about this. We had a plan, and you've now been late 3 times this month. We're going to have to end our business relationship. It's one thing to have that conversation. It's another thing to look someone in the eye and say, you have done absolutely nothing wrong. You are a stellar employee that I would love to keep here, but I can't. And to have that conversation 50, 60, 70, 80. I have one friend who had to lay off 120 people in one day. It breaks your heart to have to go through that. And how do you personally, how do you emotionally handle going through that? And how do you remove yourself from that and remember that the person you're talking to is having to handle that too? So how do you deal with that with empathy? How are you listening to their concerns and not becoming numb to it? How do you help them in every way that you can when there really isn't anything that you can do?
Yeah. No, I feel you. Having had to do that a few times, it was not easy at all, and it's certainly, it makes it eats at you, frankly, and doing it at that quantity, and especially in the hotel industry, which has been ravished by this, and airlines, and all the restaurants and all that. It's really hard, and I'm so optimistic for us getting back on the other side of this and seeing what all that looks like. So that said, to your topic on Disrupt HR in Columbus. So tell me about your any experience you've had with Disrupt, and kind of your enthusiasm for getting together here in a week or so around on April 30th to discuss a wide variety of topics. Tell me a little bit about your enthusiasm for that, as well as your actual presentation.
My actual presentation goes hand in hand with what I was just talking about. In my hotel history, I had to terminate well over 270 people in under 6 years. And that is not the disruptive fact, because in the hotel world, that actually is not uncommon, having to terminate. It's a high turnover industry. But the fact that 4 of those people actually reached out to our corporate HR office and thanked them for how I handled the termination. So the fact that people were appreciative of how I handled firing them. So my topic is about taking the sharp edge off of a soft skill and how you can handle firing someone with empathy and compassion. And in my mind, that wasn't disruptive. That's just how I did it. But when I was explaining this to a brand new friend of mine, he said, have I got a platform for you to share? And he explained what Disrupt was. And when he saw the posting for Disrupt Columbus, he sent it to me about 3 times before the deadline hit, said, you need to apply for this or I'm going to apply for you.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you, friend.
Absolutely. I do every day. In fact, I was on a chat with him today and told him that I was going to be chatting with you this afternoon. So he is looking forward to seeing this video.
How cool. Well, he'll get a plug. Yeah, no, it's having done it a couple times, it is, and I presented, I'm not a professional speaker. I maybe aspire to be someday when I have maybe a little bit more time or devote more time to it, but it is invigorating. I've seen and heard a ton of TED Talks and a ton of Disrupt HR talks. I think the biggest variation is you don't have control of that slide deck and it just rolls, baby. So there's a bit of practicing, acting, timing in that, right? Along with like, okay, if I get behind or I lose my train of thought, like that's okay. Like it's all right, it's cool.
Yep.
We're trying to make it as safe for everybody as possible. But I really appreciate, Jenilee, you having the courage to come on today and share your story. I know you've had a number of things that have negatively impacted your business and friends of yours that you're close to and having to deal with COVID. And I encourage you to continue to stay safe and well and patient at the same time. As a fellow entrepreneur, I encourage you to keep persevering through those most difficult times because that's what successful entrepreneurs do. And you are not alone. I know that may not make you feel better because you still got to deal with what you have to deal with, but in due time, your time will come. So if there's any way we can help and support you, please don't hesitate to ask or reach out.
Well, thank you. And it actually does help. Because knowing that you're not alone and knowing that you are able to share your story and being there to help someone else know that they are not alone is what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, that being said, Jenilee, thank you so much for your time. I just want to give one more plug for our upcoming virtual roundtable discussion with many of our speakers from Disrupt HR and our original cast of characters, which will get them in front of you as soon as we're able. Jenilee specifically will be focusing some of her insight around, as she talked about before, the cultural impact of layoffs and furloughs. So what she went about with that, and then the emotional impact from the stressors of the pandemic. And a variety of other topics will be discussed from leadership and impacting the younger generation and hiring and changing jobs and a wide variety of things. So please register for our event. At the same time, be on the lookout for other content that we're delivering. And for now, this is John Bernadovich signing off with Jenilee Taylor. Thanks, Jenilee.
Thank you.